right, well, let's go ahead and get started here. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to get started. We're going to do our webinar today talking about listing optimizations for peak performance, and we're really excited because we've got the master of it joining us today, Emma Shermer-Tamir from Marketing by Emma. Thanks for joining us on this.
That was pretty much perfect timing because the sirens just finally wound down. So it almost felt like you planned it that way. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be talking about listing optimization with you guys today.
Yeah, and we had Emma on our podcast too. Emma's also in a microphone podcast. She shares a lot of good stuff on there. So we started a conversation like, hey, come on a webinar and just show all this good stuff and give us some good content, especially before Q4 comes up. I know we're a little bit further out, but I mean, now would be a really good time to start split testing that kind of stuff.
We're actually not that far out.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you're wanting to be making changes to your listing before Q4, now is when you should be thinking about this because it's going to be here before you know it. And you don't want to start playing with your listings in late October, November. So then if something goes wrong or you're trying to collect data, you don't really have the ability to make any necessary adjustments. So while it may be at least sort of hot here and perhaps hot wherever you're located and feeling very summery, now is definitely the time to start really ramping things up for Q4.
Absolutely. And Emma's going to start presenting here in a second, but anybody during this presentation, if you've got questions, make sure that you put them in the chat section and we'll get to those. That we'll ask them right in the middle of it. We won't wait till the end all the time. And we'll respond to David right now, who already put a chat in. His first chat is, could you guys be any more from Kansas City? And I don't know how he knew.
I don't know. Yeah.
City.
Give it away.
Yeah. And Emma's not too far from us. She's right down the road as well in Columbia. So we're coming at you from Missouri here. But let's get going. Emma, you can, why don't you share your screen and let's just start talking about things that you can do to help optimize your listings. And I love this small fixes for big wins. And also before we jump into it, I think it's important because everybody who's on here, whether you're an existing client of Sellozo and maybe you've talked to Chris or myself on a demo or an onboarding call, or whether you're thinking about it, this is the optimizations of your listings are so critical because it's the first thing that we would look at when we're trying to help you strategize for PPC. Because it's just, you can't run successful ads to listings that don't convert very well. So this is super important. And you'll find out it's very relevant to PPC. So Emma, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. PPC and listing optimization are two peas in a pod. PPC is all about generating the traffic, and then optimizing is really to make sure that you are capturing as much of that traffic as you possibly can, because there's no reason in spending a bunch of money on advertising only to have those people that end up on your page go somewhere else and buy from one of your competitors.
Absolutely. All right, well, there's us. We're hosting this. That you go right on to the next page.
Skip those guys.
Let's talk about you.
Okay, I mean, I was waiting for a bit more about you. Those were some nice professional photos. But if since you're the host, I will let you call the shots here. My name's Emma Shermer-Tamir. I'm the co-founder of Marketing by Emma. That gentleman standing to the left of me is my husband, Erez, and he's also my business partner. We started Marketing by Emma together in 2016, and we really specialize in helping e-commerce businesses be able to effectively communicate with their dream customers in order to make sure that you are making as many of the right conversions as possible. And you notice I said right conversions. So what do I mean by the right type of sales? Because I think this is really important when we're talking about listing optimization. And I think that there's a temptation with whatever business you're in to kind of get big eyes and just want to sell to everybody and anybody. And that could be creating all sorts of problems for yourself. So first of all, you want to make sure that you have the right kind of customer, that your product is truly what that person is looking for, and that they're then going to be satisfied when they get the product home and open it up and start to use it. You also want to make sure that you're setting the right expectations. So you don't want to say that it's the best at doing something when actually it's not that effective at doing one of those particular things that you need a product to do. Because again, we're going to have a mismatch there, and that could lead to an unhappy customer experience. So we're talking about negative reviews or returns, all of these things that are overall going to have a negative impact on not only your bottom line, but even the health of your seller account, whether you're allowed to continue to sell that product, because if you have too many, negative customer experiences or people marking things not as described, then you could really be creating a lot of issues for yourself. I think the other important thing that's worth considering is while people may be clicking add to cart and ultimately buying your product, it doesn't mean that that sale has been made yet. So if they're a prime customer, they know they can easily return this product to any number of different locations. And so they don't have to fully commit to a product until they actually are able to interact with it face to face and determine whether this product is what it is that they were looking for. And so it's not just about making that initial sale, it's about making sure that you're actually keeping that sale and delivering on what you've promised so that that customer is happy and is going to decide that this is a product that they want to continue using for the long run. Oh, I couldn't help myself. I had to include a little. I will stop myself from singing, though it is quite tempting with Julie Andrews here. But let's start at the very beginning. First, going into some basic copy fundamentals. I find that whenever I don't mention these things, that people just assume I'm saying they're not important. So I want to take a few minutes going over these bullet points, and then I want to get more tactical into how to really approach certain parts of your listing to make sure that you are getting as many clicks into your listing as possible. And then once people are there, that you are getting as many the right sales as you can. So a thoughtful, well-researched keyword strategy is a must. What do I mean by well-researched? I mean not just going after the keywords that have the highest search volume, but really considering things like relevancy. And also when it comes to the copy of your listing, also being mindful of how those words are going to appear to the customer and making sure that you're using words that are going to be customer friendly, that aren't going to detract from your professionalism, the readability of the listing, or anything like that. And your keywords should really form the skeleton of your listing. So they're essential for indexing and ranking. However, they shouldn't be visible to the customer. So we want to make sure that there's a good balance there between important keywords with kind of wrapped in copy that's going to give customers all of the information that they need to know so that they're not just reading a long string of keywords. Setting things up for maximum skimmability. So a lot of times people will have a few different criterion that they need to check mark before they're going to invest any additional time in researching whether your product is a good fit or not. So you want to make it as easy as possible for people to find that information, which means utilizing things like little headers for your bullets. It means having things really being thoughtful about what words you use. And so if a word is not either pushing your SEO strategy forward or helping to push the sale forward, then it probably shouldn't be there. So being really compact, being really clear, and making sure that every single sentence is powerful and to the point. Being very benefit forward, so helping draw that connection between what the product is, why it's so great, and how it's going to positively impact customers' lives. really being thoughtful about trust and how you can, at the very least, maintain good trust. And at the most, maybe even build upon that trust. That's just essential for any relationship. Online, people are going to naturally be a little bit more skeptical. I'm sure that every customer at this point has had a bad experience where something was presented in one way and it wasn't at all what they thought it would be. And so their radars may be up a little bit. So you want to be sure that you're being extra careful to run grammar and spell checks, but also going that extra mile to clearly communicate where your product really shines and maybe also where your product may not be the best fit. And doing all of this through the lens of the customer, putting them at the center and making sure that you're doing everything that you can to be able to connect with them in an attempt to form a more meaningful relationship. And then lastly, elevate with imagery. So one of the most underutilized parts of an Amazon listing and the real estate that you're given, from my opinion, are your product images. So you have the main image that you cannot use text in, but the rest of your photos, you can edit text into them. And doing so achieves a number of things. One is some things are not easily understood just by looking at a picture, so you help bring that clarity, but also you make sure that for people that perhaps are more visual shoppers, that they're still able to get all of the important need to know information, and that you can also utilize those images to help build excitement and interest to purchase. So I realized that was a lot. That's something that could probably be a whole separate conversation. But now I want to shift gears and talk about how to stand out in the search results. And before we actually look at an example, it's crucial here that you spend time really thinking about the customer's experience when they are shopping online. So whether it's on their phone or on their computer, they're going onto Amazon and they're searching a string of words to find a product that is likely something that they're trying to solve a problem for, may have a gift to purchase. They have some need that they need to fulfill, and they're embarking on a journey to fulfill that. And I say journey, but ideally in the perfect world, this is actually a pretty quick thing. So it's something that a customer can type in their search terms and then pretty easily find what it is that they're looking for. So let's say that we are searching for wrinkle patches. Maybe I looked in an extra zoomed in mirror this morning and realized that I'm starting to have some wrinkles on my forehead that I'm not the biggest fan of. And maybe I'm not ready for Botox or not interested in Botox or don't feel like spending tons of money on expensive cosmetic procedures. So I'd like to try something a little bit less invasive first. So I search wrinkle patches, and I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a second because I want to be able to also share the window now. So one moment. So we search wrinkle patches, and this is what we get. So we have the first products that are the sponsored products, and then you see that a lot of the products beneath the sponsored results are very similar. But when you're looking at these, you also see that there's quite a bit of difference between these products. Even though we don't yet have a ton of information, we can see, this one has gold, this one has, it looks like probably different shapes. And then we have these two here, which it's not totally clear what it is that we are getting as far as shape or materials, or I guess here it says triangular, but the image definitely isn't showing us that. And so we can scroll down and we see, all sorts of different options here. And so what's your experience if you're a customer going through a page like this? you're maybe thinking, okay, I saw somebody mention something about wrinkle patches and I want to try them. And I thought this was going to be, just a quick little thing that I could do while I'm waiting in the car before my appointment. And suddenly you're like, holy moly, this is a lot of options. What am I to do? How am I to go about making a decision and determining what's right for me? Like with this particular keyword, we have over 1,000 results. So I'm not going to look at over 1,000 products and try to compare all of those together. So now what do I do? I could just say, you know what? I'm going to go with the most reviews because that's like, I just don't have the time or energy for this. I could say, maybe I'll go based on price, but then that might be a little bit challenging because the prices of these are also like there's different size packs. So some of them have 165, 108, 144. So price comparing them may be a little bit more challenging. So I don't have that. So maybe I have, the gold looks interesting. But either way, if you see what's happening, I'm kind of put in a position where I may need to be using a little bit more arbitrary types of details in order to make this decision. So I'm gonna now go back to the slides.
While you're going back to that, I just want to jump in. I have one quick question about those images.
Yeah.
What is allowed on Amazon there? Because if it's my understanding that you on your main image you have to have just the product with the white background. So are those pictures with whether it's the people in them that are using the product, or whether it's like they had the boxes and some other stuff, some like decorations or whatever around it, are those actually approved by Amazon, those main images?
I would need to look at the specific guidelines for this particular category to give an affirmative answer, but I do know that some categories it is acceptable to have a model in them. Like clothing would be another one where it's okay to have a model in whatever item it is that you're selling. And from my understanding, packaging also is acceptable to utilize, but it's only helpful if it's helpful. So let's look at this example, right? So like, this is their main image. Let's not even get into the fact that I think that their brand name is pretty terrible.
That is a terrible brand name.
Looks like a bar of soap.
Yeah, that looks like a bar.
It looks like, or like an eraser, maybe.
Yeah.
Like
those big erasers.
So Frownies, again, terrible name. And then we have the original wrinkle patch, facial patches, non-invasive wrinkle smoothers for forehead and between the eyes. So just kind of basing our research on some of those other products that we were looking at, we can see right off the bat that there are details here that are missing. And they're not in the title either. So they haven't given us any indication of the shape of these. And that seems to be important from looking at some of the other products. There's no mention here if there are any kind of superhero ingredients. There's no indication of that. It mentions that it's for forehead and between the eyes, but it's not clear if those are the only places that you're supposed to use it or not. There's no mention of how quickly these work. There's no mention of how these work, of when you're supposed to use them. Like there's just a lot of question marks here that are, and in fact, the title and the main image only spark more questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm on the search results page, unless I'm just looking at reviews, then I may not be all that persuaded to click into this. And so you can say, okay, well, but all that most people care about is reviews anyway, right? And obviously, the more positive reviews you have, the better. But that's also not a sustainable strategy for long-term business success, because your competitors can and will get more reviews. So if the only thing that you're relying on is the fact that you've been on Amazon longer and so you've accumulated more reviews, then at some point in time, whether it's sooner or later, you will start to see that your competitors are encroaching upon your territory, and then you're going to be in trouble. So what's missing? We don't know what it is. We don't know what it does. We don't know why someone would want this. You know, like, especially if you're looking at the title. So let's say you're on your phone, you're not necessarily going to zoom in to try to read what this packaging is saying. So the title becomes even more important to help us just understand the basic detail of what this product is. Not even any key differentiators or, you know, what makes it special, but just on the surface, what is this product? Does not say that. We really don't have any important keywords there. We don't know what shape it is, as I mentioned. We don't know if it can be used for anything else, how long it takes to see results. So lots of questions, very few answers. So now let's take a look at a different listing here, kind of the other side of things. Let's click on bully sticks now, and let's take a look at what somebody sees when they are shopping for a bully stick, which, for those of you that don't know, bully sticks are a kind of premium chew treat for dogs. They're a healthier alternative to rawhide, but they're also considerably more expensive than rawhide. So let's say I want odor-free bully sticks because I've been giving bully sticks to my dog for a while, and I can't even be in the same room with them when they're chewing on these bully sticks because they're so, they just smell so disgusting. So that's what I'm going to be searching. I don't have quite as many results as the previous one, but 640 results is still quite a few results to have to navigate through as a customer. So scrolling through. And let's just kind of see what we can gather here that might be important details that a customer might want to know, even just looking at these two rows of listings. Do you have any insights into what details may be important with a product like this?
Yeah, first one is definitely the phrase odor-free at the very front of the listing. Like, if I'm looking for the same product, first thing I'm going to do is skim through like the first couple of words and make sure I can see the word odor-free somewhere in the title to make sure that I'm getting what I searched for. That'd be my first thing.
Definitely. Anything else that jumps out at you that might be a little bit unexpected even?
I mean, obviously the review count on the Natural Farm, and then Natural Farm's everywhere on this particular search result, which is nice for them. They're doing some things well.
Do you see why Natural Farm is all over these? Kind of trying to give you a hint, but so the reason why, and this might, again, if this is not a treat that you're used to buying, it may just kind of go over your head. But one of the most important details here is actually things like length and thickness, because that's going to determine how long this is going to last and what size dog it's appropriate for. So you see here in the highly rated little bar here, we have Pixie bully sticks. So my guess is that those are teeny tiny for, little teacup type dogs. And then we have extra thin. So maybe those are slightly larger for puppies. And then we have all the way up to jumbo, which, look at these. These are $5.50 per treat. So as I mentioned, these are premium treats. And I'd imagine that a larger dog with stronger jaws could easily chew through a thick bully stick in 30 minutes or an hour. So right off the bat, that's not something that you would say is like a huge selling point, but it is something that if you're not communicating that clearly, then you could have a big mismatch of expectations and perhaps generate a lot of negative reviews if you're not clarifying, these are really thin sticks, And then a bunch of people with pit bulls are buying them. And then they're going to be like, man, this was a waste of money. My pit bull chomped through this in 3 bites. And then I was still left with an energetic dog that that was driving me crazy while I was just trying to eat my dinner. I'm definitely not talking from personal experience when I say that, by the way.
Well, another thing is some of these listings might have that information on the title, but it's after it's truncated.
Yeah.
So you don't even see it on here.
Yeah. And so, like one of the challenges with this particular product is it's kind of a disgusting looking product. So photographing it's going to be really challenging. So you see here that the way that a lot of companies have gotten around that is actually to put the packaging in the main image, but then that actually makes your packaging design so much more important, because that's not just what customers are going to be looking at when they get the product home, but that's actually your tool for communicating, the vibe of your brand and helping it stand out on a search results page like this. So like, for example, this best for my pets bully sticks, to me personally, this packaging looks cheaper and doesn't look as enticing or professional or as high quality as the Jack and Pup or the Natural Farm or some of the other ones that we've seen. And then kind of in contrast, we see that some have taken a completely different route and have gone with just a picture of the treats. And we see that, yes, that might catch eyeballs, but not necessarily in a way that you would want to. Because it looks cheap, it looks gross, not really doing anybody any favors here. That's not what I wanted to click. Okay, so odor-free bully sticks. Here's one of these guys that's not really doing a fantastic job. So we spoke about some of the things that you'd want to see. First off, their photos, terrible, as we discussed. It's not even a high resolution image. So you see that when it's just a little bit bigger, it gets kind of pixelated and grainy. So you have premium grade bully sticks, dog treats, 100% natural, odor-free is kind of tucked in there in the middle in a way that you definitely wouldn't see it. There's no mention of how many sticks come in this pack. There's no mention of the size as far as the length, like if they're 6 inches, 12 inches, something else. There's no mention of the thickness, and there's no mention of what size dogs these are for. So even if this has tons of great keywords in here, we're not getting that need to know information that would help me say, okay, yeah, this is a listing that checks those boxes. I'm going to click in and read a bit more. So let's see how we could rewrite this. If I were writing this title, first of all, what I would do is I would add these dashes. They're called N dashes. So they're sort of like a medium thickness dash. And what those do is they help to create a visual kind of breaking apart of the title so that it doesn't just look like a string of words, which makes it much easier for me to be able to quickly at a glance determine some details that might be relevant to what I want to know. So I've kind of set these apart based around kind of, how am I trying to say it? Like similar types of things. So for example, you've seen the third phrase, I've put fully digestible. I added rawhide alternative. There might be another keyword that could be a better way of phrasing that, but something like that. High protein, low fat dental chews. So that's where we're talking more about the health benefits and the nutritional aspects of that. Whereas more towards the top, we're talking about the ingredients themselves. So we're talking about grass-fed, free-range beef dog treats. You'll see I removed 100% all natural because it's not really necessary if you're saying grass-fed, free-range, they're bully sticks. So they're a single ingredient product anyway. So you can say all of that stuff without just sort of throwing character counts away. I also moved odor free up to the very beginning, because that's more significant than just saying premium grade. Again, premium grade are sort of those types of words that they sound good, but you realize they actually don't mean anything. And so if you can communicate a similar idea with something more tangible, then you're not taking away from presenting yourself as a more premium product, but instead you're kind of allowing people to see, oh yeah, this is premium, because an odor-free bully stick is going to cost more than a regular bully stick. That is premium. The fact that it's grass-fed, free-range beef, that's also premium. So we're speaking to all of those things without just having to say something empty. And like I mentioned, I just sort of rearranged those. And then I also put some placeholders here. So how many in thickness, from what I've seen and what I know as a dog owner, that's really important. And we want to make sure that that's right front and center there. And then I thought it might also be helpful at the end to give some reference to the ages or dog type to help people have that extra confidence that they are buying the appropriate sized bully sticks for their animal. The other thing that this dash does is, if you see here, I have 5 words before the first dash. And that's helping to encourage Amazon to create a canonical URL with keywords that I think might be really valuable for this particular product. And that's going to allow this page to be more searchable off Amazon as well, so that I have a higher likelihood of not just being able to get traffic when people are searching on Amazon, but also if they're searching odor-free bully sticks on Google, for example, then if that's in my URL, that's going to increase the quality of my SEO, and there's going to be a higher likelihood that I'll be able to appear in the higher up in the search results off Amazon as well. You have any questions about this before we move forward?
No, that's a really good point though, about how you show up in other search, like off Amazon search, like on Google, and how important that title is. And if you don't have sort of that main benefit or main keyword that people are searching right up front, you may not show up very well in those search results. The question I have is, you've got so much experience doing this, a change like this is simple. I mean, somebody who's watching this right now could go make a change like this to their listing in 5 minutes after this. What is the impact of changing something like this? Have you seen just massive impacts on sales or organic ranking when you make a change to the title like that?
Yeah, so it can definitely have an impact on your ranking and on sales for 2 different reasons. So one is, we've seen that we may be able to include some other keyword phrases here in a way that could be helpful. But let's also think about it from the, again, customer's perspective. So you're searching odor-free bully sticks. Like, if you've determined that odor-free bully sticks is the keyword that you want to go after, that you want to dominate that keyword, then you want to make sure that you are selling yourself as odor-free bully sticks. And so you want to optimize your title in a way that's going to make it very clear to customers when they're searching those keywords that that is what your product is. So if they're searching that, then they see that and they say, yep, this is what I searched for. This looks good. I'm going to click in and I want to learn more about it. And so it's not just about the ranking itself, but actually getting more of that traffic into your listing. So the title is really like the doorway into your store, if we're trying to kind of draw some comparisons with retail. And so, the sign that you have outside, the way that you have your shop window displayed, all of those different things can impact how many people are actually going into your store. And so, of course, you have some people that they looked you up, they know that you sell what they want, and they're just going to go directly there regardless. But there's also a lot of people, and they just know, hey, I need an odor-free bully stick, and they're walking down the street and they see a pet shop And if your pet shop looks good to them, and if it looks like a pet shop that would have quality products that they'd want to shop from, then even though it might not even be the, where they intended to buy these from, they'll go in because they're intrigued. And so that's just some of the ways that a title can influence your performance. So both on just how Amazon is actually indexing and ranking you, but also in how you're able to really kind of signal customers that, yes, you're in the right place. Enter in, let's have a conversation. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So drive clicks with a killer title. Need to know information. Thinking about that mobile versus desktop, and sometimes even on desktop, the title is going to truncate. And what I mean by truncate is that it's going to shorten the title so that it's not that like the rest of the title won't exist, but that only part of that title is actually going to be visible to the customer. And so you want to be mindful of that when you're creating your title. When we're talking about things like this, if those are really important details, they need to be earlier on in that title, so that even if your title is being truncated, that people will still be able to get that information. Key differentiators are also incredibly important. So I know that in these examples, I was sort of talking more about the what's missing, almost in a way to suggest that you should just copy what everybody else is presenting. And I'm not saying that at all. It's just that is the first step. So the first step is making sure that people understand what your product is. The next step beyond that is figuring out what makes you different and really leading with that unique selling point, so that you're at the same time saying what your product is and also saying what makes you special. Now, I've just chosen products at random from Amazon, so I don't have all of the back-end information to make those calls, but that's what you would want to do in addition to just the reordering of things. And I know that the example that I showed looks like it's easy and it probably took me just a few minutes. Titles are deceptively challenging, and I really think it's helpful to imagine them like a puzzle. And they're like a really hard puzzle where you think that you're putting a piece into the right place and it looks like it should go, and just you can't press it all the way down, and then you realize that there's just a slight difference in the shape of one of the edges, and so it's not actually the piece that belongs there. And that's the kind of experience that you can often run into when you're rewriting or creating a title, which is that it's going to take some playing around to make sure that you make a title that is doing all of these things and still very readable and customer forward and utilizing as many keywords as possible. So it looks easy, but it takes practice. I would also encourage you to do some A/B testing and see how some of these small changes might impact the performance on your listing for better or for worse. So then you're making more meaningful choices rather than just kind of guessing at what you think is going to work.
We have, Emma, we've got a question about titles real quick. I might as well jump in and ask it while you're on this subject. David's asking, is a 27-word title like this one that we're showing, is that advisable? He said it seems like a little much. And that's always a question that you get, is a shorter title versus a longer title better? And I'm interested to hear what you say.
Yeah, I'm kind of somebody that avoids making any claims like that about anything, because I think that when you try to generalize that much, then it's trying to oversimplify something. So there are certainly times when a shorter title will perform better, and there are certainly times when a longer title will perform better. And the best way to make that decision for yourself is to A/B test it and see how things, how that is actually relevant to not just the category that you're selling in, but actually the specific product that you're selling. So at times it might just be sort of expected that everybody's going to have shorter titles. There are certain categories that you cannot make longer titles for. So Amazon just has, maybe an 80 character limit or something. And so then you work with it and do what you can. I wouldn't say that you always have to maximize it, but it's worth sort of exploring what works. And I do think that breaking up the phrases with dashes sort of helps achieve the best of both worlds in some ways. So it makes it much more approachable without sacrificing space to integrate other important pieces of information and keywords.
Yeah, you can certainly have a good long title and a bad long title, and a good
Yes.
short title or a bad short title. And David just followed up, and I think I'll clarify, because he was talking about this particular title right here. And this is the title before Emma worked her magic on it. This is the original title we saw before he changed it, because he was worried about losing odor free in this mix.
Oh yeah. This is just
this is before you fixed it. Emma would move odor free right to the front, put the dash after it so it separates it, highlights it, and then the rest of the words will flow from there. But hopefully that answers David's question for him.
Yeah, because this is just the title as it is now is just a list of words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what to look at. Your eyes don't know where to go. You're just sort of left like,
you can't read that. It doesn't flow.
It doesn't flow. Yeah.
Do you know where my eyes go? Like my eyes go to 100%. And I think they go there, if I were to just guess, and I haven't done research on this or anything, but my supposition is that it's different. And so it kind of gives my eyes a point to kind of grab onto, even though it's not necessarily a hugely important piece of information. And it doesn't necessarily make sense that's where I would want to go. I also kind of hate how they've written their brand name. I find that to be not very pleasing to the eye or approachable. And you want to be thinking about all of those things, because sometimes Amazon enforces that you put your brand name at the very beginning of your title. And so if you have to do that, do you have a brand name that you want to be the first thing that people see?
Mm-hmm.
That's an important choice. And so all of those little details are very important.
Just to end on this, you can also, if you're brand registered, you can also go to your brand section in your social account, and you can manage your experiments. And doing the title is one that you can A/B test. So if you want to test a shorter title versus a long title, or you want to test the dash versus, I'm going to mess this up. It's the pipe, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But you can do that, and Amazon's going to give you the data on like if you got better sales, conversion rate, all that stuff. So brand registered, go check out, manage your experiments. You can do that.
Yes, great point. And the one note I would say on that is anytime you're doing A/B testing, I love that they call it experiments with Amazon, because in some ways it's almost like they're priming you to really think as through like the scientific method, which is something that we may be a little bit rusty with, since most of us probably haven't recently taken a science class. But one of the core foundations of a successful experiment is controlling what you're testing for. And so if you are truly testing a short versus long title, then you don't want to start also playing around with how you're organizing all of those keywords and details, because then you're actually starting to test additional things beyond just the length. So whenever you're doing an A/B testing like that, make sure that you are considering those elements and trying to make sure that you are designing things in a way that you'll be able to clearly disprove or support the hypothesis that you have going into that experiment.
And just to finish on that, don't do the image and the title at the same time, because you're going to mess up the metrics.
Right.
You're not going to know which one's working. So pick one section, go test that out, then go back and try the other one.
Exactly. So build better bullets. Keep customers on your page with key details. So the title's job is to get people into the listing. The bullet's job is to keep them on your listing. So the bullets are oftentimes where we're going to go as customers to make sure that this is, in fact, the product that we want. Maybe we have some information that we need to know beyond what the title tells us, or we just want to get a little bit more familiar with exactly what this product is and what it does. So let's go back to Frownies for a moment. Now, these are Frownies' other 3 photos that they have on their product page. Pretty terrible. They don't present, again, I'm getting just eraser vibes with the packaging. The product itself looks just like craft paper, like brown craft paper. So it's kind of confusing and weird looking. And then we have 3 bullets. So they're not even using the full 5 bullets. Sometimes short bullets work well, or again, are required because of the category that you're selling in. However, there's a good way to write short bullets and a bad way. And this is definitely a bad way. First of all, right off the bat, in the 3rd word, we have a misspelling. So an anti-wrinkle, it should say treatment, I would assume, for forehead and between eyes. So we get a little bit of insight into the fact that this is an anti-wrinkle treatment, but we don't know what form this treatment takes. Then it's going to tell us, again, it targets the cause of wrinkles between the eyes and horizontal forehead wrinkles. Okay, so does that mean that this is going to help with the wrinkles I already have? Or is this going to help prevent more wrinkles from forming? Don't know. Last bullet. Enables skin to breathe and maintain normal restoration at night. So does that mean that this is essentially just helping your skin do what it does anyway? Because it's not saying that it's helping to do something more. It's just saying normal restoration. Or is that actually trying to point out a differentiator because perhaps some of these other products inhibit the normal restoration process? And so this one allows for that. And so if it does, then why is that important? Why do we want our skin to breathe? Why do we want to maintain that normal restoration? Because none of these really sound points are fully thought through, and they're certainly not presented in a way that the customer understands why these matter to them and how these are going to solve this problem that they went on Amazon to resolve. So they're looking for wrinkle patches. They have something, they have some lines on their face that they're feeling insecure about. And this product is designed to help resolve that. If you're a customer and you are searching for that, do you feel confident that this product meets those needs?
There's no emotion here. There's no emotion. There's no, like, I'm not getting engaged with this brand. I'm not getting emotionally attached to this product. It's just anti-wrinkle treatment for your forehead between eyes. Like a robot wrote it out. There's no connection.
Mm-hmm. And I have lots of questions. What are the results? How long do you wear it?
Right.
Do you only wear it at night? What do you do? How does this work? There's a lot of questions.
100%.
The image is great, by the way.
Right, I know. Yeah. So here's my attempt at a better bullet. Again, I am making some slight guesses as to the functionality of this product because I didn't do a lot of off Amazon research, but based upon what I saw on their listing, I felt confident writing this way. So rather than an anti-wrinkle treatment for forehead and between the eyes, I wrote rest wrinkles away. You see I have that little header there offset by a dash. So again, that's helping to do 2 things. One is it's signaling what this bullet is about. So if I have all of my bullets written in that way, and let's say that for me, the most important thing as a customer is the ingredients list. Like maybe I have a sensitivity to some things and I want to know this is free of silicone and blah, 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 and it's cruelty free or whatever. So if I'm using these headers and I have one header that clearly communicates that it's about the ingredients, then I know my eyes know exactly where to go. So it helps to kind of send me in the right direction. Similarly, if you're in a grocery store and you have the signs at the top of the aisles that are saying, this is where you find the sparkling water. And you know that with the water, you'll find the sparkling water and the flavored water, and you also find the vitamin water and, all those types of things. But that's kind of the place that to go searching for the product that you need. So that's the function that having that little header can do. So rest wrinkles away, reveal a more youthful you overnight, just apply frownies, forehead wrinkle patches before bed, and wake up to instantly firmer, smoother skin. So in 2 sentences and a little intro header, which all of this is under 200 characters, by the way, we have managed to speak about what the primary function of this product is, when you use it. We're also suggesting that results are going to come quickly. So it's not that you're going to have to wait 30 days. I don't know how quickly, again, because that information wasn't anywhere to be found on this product page. And then telling you how to use it. So you put it on before bed, you wake up to firmer, smoother skin. So we're giving all of that information, and we're helping the customer to visualize how they're going to look and feel after using this product, because that's ultimately what they are hunting for. They don't really care about the wrinkle patch itself. They care about what the wrinkle patch is going to do for them and the wrinkles that they're feeling really insecure about.
I got to jump in and just touch on the fact that that sentence that you write, that's a skill to talk that way. And you've done so much in here that clearly this is going to engage the customer. I mean, it's that reveal a more youthful you. That's hitting their emotion of why they're even here in the first place. And the rest wrinkles away. That's a brilliant 3-word thing that you put, because it's the whole thing. It shows how easy it is. You just put this on at night and you wake up and your wrinkles are gone. You communicated that quickly. So I think for anybody watching, that developing this skill, or we'll talk about later, hiring this out to do this, just makes a major impact, because that is a skill to be able to write that way. That's a great bullet point.
Thank you. And I think what's really exciting about this also, we're seeing this is the #1 product for wrinkle patches, and they're doing a terrible job. So if you are just starting out and you see these things, you shouldn't take it as a sign that this doesn't matter. You should actually take it as really exciting to know that if you can figure this stuff out better than some of these other people that may have just, been lucky enough to get on Amazon years before you did, that you can still have a fighting chance. Because if you do this stuff better, then you can slowly start to build your own momentum and just take it from there, and maybe even eventually unseat the top players. So don't leave them guessing. Spelling and grammar errors, definitely don't make those. There's tools like Grammarly. Any word processor has a spell checker. Make sure that at the very least you're having a computer check things. If you can have somebody else take a read over it, that's even better. Communicate what the product is. How does it work? Why would someone want this? What problems does it solve? How does this compare, and what makes it different or better than the competitors? And where is the customer? The customer is totally left out of these bullet points. Like they're just nowhere to be found. These are just kind of disembodied, vague phrases. They're not even full sentences that don't help give any sense of the product at its most basic level, and certainly nothing beyond that. So now we have Chewy and Tasty. We have the totally opposite problem with them. Okay, so here, their first bullet is like a lot of bullet. It's close to 500 characters. And similarly with their title, I just look at that and my eyes are like, no thanks, don't want to deal with that too much. Their photos are also not the best. Like their third photo is new packaging, same taste, odor-free, easy lock touch. Which, cool if they have this new easy lock touch thing, but like it doesn't really say why that matters, why they made this new packaging. And so if that is such a big selling point, then you want to make sure to clarify that. So here's my attempt at their first bullet. So first of all, everything that's said in this bullet, I'm saying in this bullet. So there might be some tiny specific details that I cut out, but the core message of what they're trying to say here, we're getting all of that here in far fewer words. And so again, from an accessibility standpoint, from a customer friendly standpoint, this is going to be much easier and less intimidating. And a lot of times if you see a big chunk of text, you're just not going to make the effort to read it. You're going to be like, too much, not interested, move on. And I'm a writer by trade, and I don't even want to read it. And I read everything, and I'm just like, oh gosh, that's too much for me. So your first bullet, its job is really communicate what your product is and what makes it special. So choose the better bite. Delight your dog and channel destructive energy into chewy and tasty bully sticks. These healthy tail wagging treats satisfy their need to chew without causing upset tummies. So we are talking about the experience that the dog is going to have, but we're also kind of also touching in on that experience that the human's going to have in giving their dog a treat that it's going to really enjoy. We're also talking about why you might give a product like this to a dog. So one is just to give them a treat. Two is that they might be kind of a nuisance and that they need something to put their energy into. And so this is a way of doing that. But then we also go to the point of that these are healthy and that they're not going to upset tummies, which is one of the main reasons why somebody would be open to buying so much more expensive of a treat than just going with your standard rawhide treat to begin with. Do you have customers? Do you have questions about that?
Well, I mean, the main thing is I think you just answered a main question about like the length of the bullets. Like, is it, how important is it to get everything in there? And like you just said, it's, you want to get your message across, but if you can do it concisely, then it's going to work so much better. Plus, again, with that, the initial first thing you did there with choose the better bite, nice play on words. Those things stand out. You know, those make a big difference in the listing. So I think you answered a lot of the questions going through that right there.
And you'll see on the left, they're using the all caps header for their bullets. And that's something that was really popular for a long time. That is something that Amazon has and it continues to crack down on. And so you can achieve the exact same thing with the examples that I've shown of just using title, case, and then offsetting with a dash as you do with the all caps, but without the risk. And I think that touches on something else important, which is if you're looking at your competitors for examples of what you can and can't do, you may be led to make really poor choices for your listing, because Amazon, the way that it works is it's rarely proactive. Most of the time they are, if somebody reports something or if there's another problem with your listing and then they see, oh yeah, and they're violating these terms of service, then you're just dealing with a lot of headache and a suspended listing and lost revenue and all of that stuff. And it's a huge pain to do. So of course, if you know that and you still feel like it's worth it to you to take that risk, at least know that you're making it, consciously, rather than just sort of seeing that other people are doing it and taking that as an indication that there's not going to be any problem at all. So, as I mentioned, where do your eyes focus when you have this? Not only are those bullets huge, but then they're using the headers, but not very effectively, because 3 of the headers are chewy and tasty, our tasty. So even if their approach is like, we like longer bullets, they're better for us, those headers are kind of just like confusing and not serving their purpose. They're not helping us understand what those 3 bullets are about at all. Do they cover all the crucial details? No. Even in their bullets, there's no mention of size. There's no mention of what size dogs these are for. Those are just basic details that somebody needs to know. And the only thing that we have is that they're 6-inch bully sticks, which we can see on the packaging, but there's no mention of thickness at all. There's inconsistent formatting, overwriting. Who cares about all of this? And it's all about the brand. So Chewy and Tasty Bully Sticks are hand-picked. Chewy and Tasty Bully Sticks are produced in a USDA approved facility. So that's fine. And it's okay to have some information that is about you and your brand, but you also want to make sure that the customer is in there and that their experience is really front and center. I think we've covered all of these and we are butting up against time. So I will just run through these super duper quickly. Some quick fixes that you can do. Replace we's, ours, and your brand name at the beginning of the sentences. So Chewy and Tasty Bully Sticks are produced in a USDA approved facility. If you just reworked this sentence and made it more about the customer and the bully stick and kept all of that information the same, just flopped the order a bit, you would have a stronger bullet there without doing anything else, without adding any additional information. Use active language. So you'll see with this example, delight your dog and channel destructive energy. So we're using imperative verbs here. I know that might be a little bit too grammar heavy for you, but speaking in that way, the you is implied. So we are talking directly to the customer with that, delight your dog, but it's also very active. So the energy is high, it's more engaging, it's going to hold attention better. And it's so difficult to hold attention. And so the more kind of winding your sentences get, the more they lack that impact, the weaker job that your writing is going to do, and the less likely that customers are going to continue reading. Flip the order of your sentences. So putting your benefits before your features, very similar to the we's, ours, and brand names. Oftentimes when we're describing something, we'll say this has this thing which does this. So if you just flip that order and say this does this because it has this thing, then it's going to be a stronger, more engaging sentence. Get organized. So really understand what are those need to know details, and then how can you present those in a way that you're not also padding things with too much extra information that isn't necessary at this stage. Maybe there are other details that you could save for your A+ content, or maybe there's even information that's just not relevant to this stage of the customer journey and would be better shared in an insert that a customer can look at when they're engaging directly with your product. Be ruthless, so cut everything that doesn't need to be there. Spelling grammar check, as I've mentioned a few times. When it comes to length, go the Goldilocks route. So you don't want to be so short like Frownies that you're just creating more questions than giving answers, but you also don't want to be so long that you're following in Chewy and Tasty's footsteps and just like overwhelming the customer. So really finding that middle ground. With the bullets, we try to keep those around 200 characters per bullet, and that seems to be a pretty good reference point to make sure that there aren't going to be any extra words that are slipping in there, but that you also have enough space to be able to write what you need to write. Highlight key information. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, adding text to your images is a great way to use those images for, more than what they're there for. I don't know whose slide this is, but Justin or Chris?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to prove here is that in order to do effective PPC, in order to have really good ACOS and return on ad spend with your advertising, everything starts with the listing. So the listing has to be top notch before you can even consider advertising, because you're not going to get the results that you're going to want or you're looking for when you run ads. We see this all the time. We talk to sellers, and the first thing we do is we look at their listing to make sure that it's well optimized. And we go over things like Em was going over, because if the listing doesn't look good, there's no sense in running advertising to it because you're just going to waste money. So this can help you with better indexing for your keywords. You can show up for different keywords that you're bidding on, because if you add those to your title, your bullet points, or your search term report, your listing can then get indexed for those, which helps you with your ranking. You'll get more conversions, obviously, which is obviously going to help with organic ranking. Click-through rate will be higher. I mean, you'll get a better chance of getting those ad placements because your listing is going to be more optimized. You're going to have better click-throughs. You're going to have more conversions, and so forth. So I guess the point is like, get a good listing, figure out what you're missing, go do A/B testing, go talk to Emma, because then you can start to run ads a little bit more effectively. Dustin, what do you want to add there?
Yeah, well, I think the another really important thing is Amazon's getting better and better and better and more sophisticated at their relevancy score that they're giving your product. And if you have a low relevancy score for certain keywords, they won't even show your ad. So we get this all the time where clients will come on or we'll be on a demo call. And the question is I'm running my campaigns, but I'm getting no impressions. Well, and typically the client is upset about that. But in reality, Amazon's sophisticated algorithm might be doing you a favor because they're assuming your product will convert at a low rate. And so they're giving it a low relevancy score. So they're not even showing your ad, even if you're the highest bidder a lot of times. And that can cause some confusion. All you need to do is improve and optimize your listing to improve your conversion rate, which is going to improve your relevancy score across Amazon, and everything's going to work better. So this is absolutely critical, and it's getting more and more critical as well because Amazon's getting smarter and smarter at putting the most likely to convert product in front of its customers. So it's critical. Yeah.
I think take it away. Another one. Yeah.
So the goal ultimately is to become more than just a got it from Amazon product. So this is the first step, and it's okay if you're just a got it from Amazon product. But what you see with a lot of the examples that I've given in how I've chosen to rewrite things, it's not just adding information or cutting information. You see that with both of those, I've also developed somewhat of a distinctive approach, tone, and voice that I'm taking with those. And so if I were to fully flesh that out with rewriting those listings all the way through and creating new A+ content and being aware of that, then what I'm able to do in the long term is not just to generate more sales now, but to build up that brand recognition, to build up those customer relationships, and to ultimately be able to be identifiable as a brand itself. So that when somebody says, hey, where did you get that? Then you say, oh, it's my favorite Wrinkle Patches from Frownies, for example. And both of these products, by the way, they are consumables. So they are something that if you do a good job with this, it is really in your best interest, because you can win over all of the repeat purchases if you do a good job. But that means that you have to clearly communicate what your product is, that you have to deliver on what it is that you've promised your customers, and then you have to provide them with a positive experience that will make them want to come back. I would be very happy to offer a free listing analysis to all of you. If you're wondering whether your listings are doing what they need to be, you can scan this QR code with your phone camera or go to marketingbyemma.com/Sellozo to fill out a short form to claim that. And we're happy to provide just some feedback about things that we see that you may want to consider doing to improve the performance of your listing. And if your listing looks awesome, then you just get a seal of approval, and then you know that your time and efforts would be better spent elsewhere.
I encourage everybody that's watching this to do that. Especially, I mean, Chris and obviously we're coming at this from the PPC side, but if you're struggling with your campaigns, this might be the first thing that you want to do, but before you keep tinkering around with your campaigns, try to make them work, make sure that everything that you're driving traffic to is optimized. So I would highly encourage everyone to do this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've done this with Emma's giving me a free analysis, and it's way more information than I thought I was going to get. So it's really cool though, because it's like they go into detail, and we talk about this on podcasts. Like sometimes we're just so narrow focused on our own product that we don't even get anybody else's opinion. This is when you want somebody's opinion, because then your listing can get better. Your ads can get better. You can rank better. Emma and her team are going to come at it from a third party perspective, and they're going to give you honest feedback on what you should do. I would definitely scan this. It's free, and you're going to get some valuable information.
Absolutely. Is that the last slide? Oh, there we go.
My contact details. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. But I believe this one is the last. Yep. There we go. Made it through. I do tend to go over time always. So I apologize for being very on brand with that and continuing to be
it was very, very valuable information. I mean, I really like looking at how you would just change those. I think it's just eye-opening to see what a good listing can look like and the message they're trying to convey. So we really appreciate you coming on and joining us. I encourage everyone to reach out to you. Make sure that your listings are top notch before you start running PPC for sure. And for everybody who's out there and your listings are optimized, and if you are running PPC and you would like to just take that workload off your plate a little bit, then Sellozo's for you. We can help fully automate and optimize your campaigns for you. And Chris and I, we will do the demos with you. We do an onboarding call with you as well. And we are very open and upfront. The first thing we were going to do is look at your listing. And if we need to send you to Emma, we'll send you to Emma, and Emma can send you right back to us after that. But it is super important. But yeah, if you're ready to start automating your PPC, go to sellozo.com. And at the top right corner, you can book a demo, or you can go ahead and start your 14-day free trial, and you will get on a call with either Chris or myself right after that, and we'll walk you through the platform. So everyone, I hope this has been valuable. It's been valuable to us for sure. Love listening to Emma. Check her out, and thanks for tuning in to this webinar. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.